Valencia, thank you so much for being with us today. I like I'll let you take it over from here.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you to Black Beyond, Jocelyn, for having me, for Shinshin for reaching out to me. Thank you to the New School and Parsons Design and Technology Department for hosting this. And it's just an honor to be here. I'm gonna
It's
start
an honor to
sharing.
have you.
Thank you, Terry. Really excited to be in community with you all. So yeah, I'm gonna just get started. Uh, and yeah, let me know. Yeah, does everyone see my screen? I think that's we say that a lot these
Yep, it
days.
looks great.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, let's just dive right in. First, I would like to just describe myself if there's any low-sighted or blind guests on the call today. So greetings, my name is Valencia James. I am a Black femme with dark brown skin, and my hair I wear in thin locks and it's pulled back in a ponytail. I have on a necklace with a kind of a leather necklace that's beaded with a couple pearls and trinkets, and I'm wearing a dark green top. And my background is quite plain, cream colored wall. And I'm really excited to. First of all, I want to acknowledge that I'm working right now in Redwood City, California, and I'm on the ancestral lands of the Ohlone people, and so I'd like to pay them homage and respect. Uh, I'm just really thrilled to share my personal journey. In engaging emerging technologies in my artistic practice. I feel like I'm still at the beginning, yet it's been a few years of exploration. I'm going to share two projects, the AIM project and the Volumetric Performance Toolbox, which is the most recent one. Um, my work starts, with from my movement practice, and and engaging with tech comes from a place of curiosity about how will these technologies ultimately impact my profession, performing arts, and how I create. And I'm looking for ways of how these tools and approaches can enhance my creativity. And so this slide that you're seeing shows a first prototype of AIM, which was co-founded in 2013 with an amazing group of creative technologists. And on the right, I am in a position with my left arm bent at the elbow and my right arm is extended. I'm looking to my right, and on the left is a projection of a 3D replica of me in a virtual space. And this was like the first foray into, let me just, yeah, change that slide. So here are my collaborators. I just wanted to start by saying, my work is very much based on collaboration with some generous creative technologists. And AIM was founded with Alexander Berman, Gabor Pap, and Gaspar Haidu, and as well as Botan Bognar. And this was when I was based in Hungary. So this is a collaboration with Hungarian, and Alex is based in Gothenburg, Sweden. And so we're supported both by Swedish and Hungarian arts organizations. We started with in 2013 with a small research residency where we set out to question how can AI and contemporary dance advance and inform each other. And this started with me seeing how AI is disrupting so many different industries, from hotels to taxis, and seeing just how much kind of mayhem it was and fuss it was causing. So I was curious about what would happen in performing arts. And so I set out with the question, could I teach a computer to dance? And if so, could I have a duet with myself? What will be really an intelligent avatar? And thinking about, how can there be an avatar that learns my movements in real time, but then gives me novel movements. And so, sorry, let me just change that slide. Uh-oh, yeah, here we go. And so here I'm going to show a clip of where we came to. We didn't have much money. So what you saw in the first slide was we were looking at how I can be made into like an avatar that looks like me. But we quickly found out that, we were using a very basic motion capture, which was a Kinect, to capture my movements. And so we realized that we needed to dial back and just focus on what we can use with what we had. We had a basic set of a very small set of movements as a data set, and not very good motion capture. So we figured, okay, how can we still create something, a system that generates novel movements just with these limited, um, this limited setup. And this is what we came to. Alex, who's the colleague who is based, who basically works with machine learning algorithms. He created this amazing software. And this is computer generated movements that's based on about 60 movements that we formed a data set with. And it looks nothing like what I gave it. So the amount of novelty and beauty and grace was so exciting for me that I used this in the studio, and I kind of fell into this beautiful time of solo research just with this avatar, and I would just improvise for hours. Um, and it's important to note that we didn't give any constraints of gravity or physical limitations. So it does quirky stuff like what you see here. And the next I'm just going to show, oops, it's starting again for some reason. Yeah. So I'll just show a bit of what I did for like 4 years. I ended up locking myself in the studio and just improvising with this avatar. And for me, like one thing that really came up was how much I started to develop like this relationship with this avatar, although it was a stick figure. And it does really strange stuff. It could get knotted up in a ball. I still felt like this sense of empathy every time I would dance or perform with the avatar. I really was treating it as like an actual dancer. Like I respect the movements, and I didn't try to really break the system. I really was interested in what the system would bring out of me, and I found that in the end, I learned so much more. I set out thinking like, oh, I'm going to teach this computer to dance. No, but I learned so much more. And I found that even the way I started approaching movement and my movement qualities and my way of improvising, because I'm an improviser at heart, as my approach to dance, it really enriched my movements. Things like movement, like how we deal with habits. I was also interested in how this can disrupt how a dancer approaches movements, how we can like step out of those like nice movements that we get like very hooked on doing. How can we come out of that and find new movements and ways of approaching movement and choreography. So this is me playing. I kind of went into the silo. And so thankfully, when we got some more funding, right, I could open up my practice and get to know dancers. We started doing some workshops around the end of that time, just before getting the possibility to make an actual evening length work, which was like our dream. So this is like 4 years onwards, 2017, and we're in the studio. I invited some dancers from Sweden and Hungary. We did some workshops there, as well as, and you see this is Nia Landin and Bogi, who are on the floor with me. And we have Linnea Bagader, who's a Swedish designer. She did the costume work, and we had an international team. Seated is Gabor and Gash and Alex, coming on your right, and in the middle seated is Scott Kazan, was an LA-based composer. And so we got to really expand the work, and start thinking a bit more about AI as, and how, and the different narratives that were, circulating in society in that moment. In 2017, it was a lot about how AI is going to take over our jobs, and how we need to really be, um, careful with artificial general intelligence. And there's a lot of very, it felt very doom and gloom at that point. And we felt like, stemming from my experience in the studio with this system, I felt like AI has a potential of being possibly seen as an equal creative partner, and and something that we can see as, not just another kind of intelligence, just like how we see like a dog or a dolphin as another type of intelligence. But we also think, we're thinking about how can we demystify AI, because that's also part of a lot of fear surrounding the technology. So we wanted to go about presenting a learning process of AI, which was something that the start was very much what we wanted to do, but at that time we didn't have the means for the technology, and also things were, the technology itself for motion capture just wasn't very accessible. And so in those 4 years, what you see in this slide is me, on the left. I'm wearing a motion capture suit, and in those 4 years, then motion capture suits that are more accessible and didn't need like very fancy setups became available through crowdsourcing. So we were able to finally uh, realize our dream of having real-time motion capture on stage. And you see on the right is the avatar now has a new look. It's not just a stick figure, but we use particles, and so we looked at real-time rendering in performance as well, because these particles could take many different forms. So we're looking at also representations of AI as like a swarm, or like different formations, but also as a humanoid. So there are many different themes that we were able to explore in this in this performance. And I'm just gonna let you see a clip. And I think we can, in the Q&A, we can get back to a bit more, because it is so many aspects I cannot really get to in just a short talk. Um, but I will just show this clip of interaction. We're looking at a teaching ritual and how can we demystify dancers of the proms, and we're looking at how avatar is being given different dancers to move. I'm the only one who's not actually, but we're looking at transmission from my body as a medium for dancers to move. Calm, you know, we see the possibilities, creative possibilities of you engaging AI. Oh, this is interesting. Somebody's writing. Oh, okay. I'm seeing some strange things on the screen. I don't know where it comes from. Um, so yeah, so this is just a clip of where we got to in 4 years, and then what like getting funding at the end meant, like we could really expand the work, and it's still a work in progress really, because although it's kind of paused in a way, but from my insights from this was showing that how much limitations are generative. I found that my assumptions of this hierarchy between like human machine, teacher student got like flipped on its head in a really lovely way, and I'm just so grateful. I got so much from it, and just the way I move now, it's so different. It's so enriched just because of that interaction with an avatar, a dancing avatar. Who knew? Um, and I find like through empathy came out. That's what I didn't get to touch on, but the idea of empathy and how we approach um, an avatar, a projection, or the idea of approaching a machine. I found that I had to step back and kind of check myself. you know, um, how am I approaching this being? And I found the more I approached it as a fellow human, the better the interaction read as an audience. So the better the more deep the connection could be. And this brings me to the question of I'll get to the we make technology what it is, I think, at the end. But um, it came to there's always this tension between the physical and virtual that I kept butting up on. And through that process of making that piece, I wanted to see how can we get the avatar not being represented on this flat screen, but really coming into the performance space with me, because it was like 4 years of staring at a screen, and it was so there's this awkwardness there of me in my physical like 3D space, um, relating to a simulated 3D space, but what was ultimately flat. And so that brought me to this project that I'm working on now called Volumetric Performance Toolbox, which is a collaboration between myself, Sora Bluey, and Glowbox, which is an agency of amazing creative technologists based in Oregon. Again, it's remote collaboration via the internet, and this started with me like I had like just paused AIM. I didn't really understand like how I should go forward with it. I moved to the US from Hungary to the US, had a baby, and just didn't know what the way forward. But then with the pandemic, um, I realized like I had this aha moment like theaters are closed. We don't know when they will open again. My performances that I was supposed to do got canceled. But what if here is an opportunity to that I can get into the virtual? What if I can restage I am here in the virtual? And so I reached out to Sorob, and he got me in touch with Thomas Wester from Glowbox, and they had been actually doing some research on volumetric capture or volumetric filmmaking. And that is basically using like a depth camera, so not a camera that gives 3D information, video information, and puts it into online immersive space as a 3D kind of video. So instead of like a very flat video, but something that you can actually see the dimensions of. And so through the I-Beam Rapid Response Fellowship, we were able to really dig into that and see how can volumetric capture relate to live dance performance. And this is something that is very exciting in its capability of of how, you know, someone in their living space can make a live performance that can be viewed by anyone via web browser. And so we're looking at how can performance, live performance, be accessible across devices, accessible for audiences, but also accessible for artists to create their own performances at home in this time of pandemic. And how can we have live communal art experience in this time that we are like forced to be isolated? Um, I started thinking as well about Black femme representation in online space. This is actually Black femme representation has also been a theme that has been I've been dealing with in my other performance work, in looking at stereotypes of Black females in performance and theater. And I realized like this is also an important issue in virtual reality and gaming. Um, that Black women are many times left out and not represented. Um, and so this is also what I wanted to look at. So in this slide on the left, we see the setup. We started by setting up an Azure Connect, which is a depth camera, which is, like, I don't know, a few generations from the first Connect that we started using, which is the camera you find in the Xbox. But this one is a specialized for really understanding the dimensions of your space. And so you see on the left, like my computer has, Thomas is instructing me via Zoom. And we have another computer that is taking the information from the camera set up on my dining room table with my toddler looking on. And on the right, you're seeing a recording of my movement. We are using a program called Depth Kit. And so you see on the top is my normal like video information, like a 2D color video. And on the bottom is like the depth information. You see it in different colors. So if I were to come closer, I would get, the farther I get, I'm blue. The closer to the camera I get, I'm more like going into green and yellow. And so this is where we started. We didn't really know how we were gonna go about it, other than we wanted to use the social VR platform called Mozilla Hubs as an experimental platform. And I started just making some recordings, but we wanted to ultimately get to the point where we can have a live stream of this. So, you could set up the camera and, and you start your programs, and in that moment in your living room, you are being seen by other people in their various living spaces. So this is what we set out to do. And in the next slide, I'll just show you where we got to. I also want to talk about my creative process is also about figuring out, okay, if we have dance in a virtual environment, then you can basically dance anywhere you want to, right? So we also looked at virtual environments, and I came across a photogrammetry data of the Annenberg sugar mill by SciArc. And this is a company that does a lot of scans of different World Heritage sites. And so I was also thinking about virtual environments that can be a site for healing and reclamation of spaces that were historically filled with a lot of pain and injustice. And so I'm going to stop talking and just show you where we got, and then we can also come back to this in the Q&A. in this process, you saw basically that the audience, they enter the Mozilla Hub space, which is a social VR space, as avatars, and so that's you see they're represented as avatars. And in this screen, this is a shot of the artist talk, the Q&A talk. You see Thomas on the right, and I'm in a kind of a, what do you call that, like a webcam. We're represented as webcams in this scene. But it's like a 3D, you're really immersed in this like 3D experience. And so we did a few tests over like the past couple months with test audiences. And, it was really, for me as a performer, was exhilarating. It felt like, being involved in a live, in a physical live performance. And from the audience members, we got some really amazing feedback, seeing how they felt a sense of intimacy and aliveness in that space, even though they were represented as avatars. So there's a lot of potential in this. And so right now, we are in the process of developing workshops so that any artist can make their own online immersive performance. And we're going to do some workshops next month. And so we're looking for collaborators. We really want this project to not just be about a performance, but just about building a community of creators. And so you're welcome to, if you're interested in being involved, please contact us at volumetricperformance@gmail.com. We also have a Twitter, Instagram handle, Volumetric Performance. And please, we're really interested to see what people will create with this. And so thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. So thank you. I'll stop
Much,
sharing.
Valencia. That was great.
Thank you.
I'd
I
like
realized
to
it
go
was
ahead.
long, but
Oh no, it was really great. I've already have more questions, but people don't worry. I only ask one question and then I will open it up to the floor. So feel free to use the raise hand option. And under participants, there should be an option for anyone to click on that, and then I'll keep track of who raises their hand for questions. But my first question is, as an artist working in this hybrid of dance and technology, as a Black female artist, how do you make yourself heard? Or I guess, do you ever find there are places where you might need to make your voice heard? Or is there something there? How do you demand respect?
you mean like within the collaboration?
Yes, within the collaboration,
Yeah, I think
in fields that are predominantly non-Black.
yes. Well, I think I think I've been really blessed with some really lovely collaborators. I think for me, once you find people who are excited by the idea and want to contribute and see, how they can contribute, so they find their own interest in the work. I think it's that's powerful. So it's more about the affinities and interests, common affinities, common interests, common values that have I think have been very important. And the thing is about multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary collaboration is that there's bound to be, things that get lost in translation.
Mhm.
There are, conflicts or misunderstandings. And I think it can be hard in the moment, but I've found it's been generative in how, we're thinking about working because it's such a new space, like this intersection. And one thing that has just recently come out in our collaboration has been the need for community agreements and just having
Mhm.
those conversations about what are our common values, what are our motivations for being involved. And I think community agreements and these kind of discussions are really important and full of possibilities and are very generative. So that's what I've learned.
And on top of that, the fact that we're all still in quarantine is probably an added level of hardship. Could you speak a little bit more about that collaborative process? What do you start with? The research question, the dance, the music, the technology?
I think it's been for me probably a question about how the technology can enhance my creativity or what it means for the future of
Mm,
performing arts. So maybe it starts with a question. There's definitely the technology there. But I think, yeah, there's been an interesting tension between the creative process and the building of the tools. Um, because a lot of times, I guess in the beginning, it felt like, okay, what can this do? What can this tool do? And for a while, it seemed like, almost like a tech demo maybe. And how do we come beyond that so that, there is a strong, um, yeah, a creative process that actually shapes the tool.
mm.
That for me, that's like the ideal place. But I guess they're different steps. The process, has its own um, trajectory, I guess. But it's nice when it comes where the creative process is built is molding the tool. Yeah.
What do you see the next steps as for the volumetric toolbox, performance toolbox, as far as accessibility goes, for people to be able to use it?
Yes. Oh, so this is we're really in the thick of it. So basically, like what you saw was something that we kind of hacked together in a very short time. So now my collaborators like at Glowbox and Store Bluey, they're working on how to make the tools in a way that an artist can just take them and use them rather than it being like kind of this magic that they pull together. We're building like tutorials and curriculum, um, and just reaching out to the community. And another very important thing is digital accessibility. So how are we making sure no one is excluded? How are different people with different multisensory capabilities involved in the process from the beginning, so that people who are like disabled artists are able to also use the be able to create as well. So we're looking at different voices and specifically prioritizing Black, Indigenous, and people of color, disabled artists, people from traditionally marginalized communities.
Reminder to the audience, feel free to, everyone, feel free to pose a question by raising your hand, and I will gladly bring you into the conversation. Um, in the meantime, I would love to ask you, or first say that I was able to see one of your performances of in the volumetric performance toolbox, and I was really blown away, not only as a dancer myself, but as an audience member. It felt like a step up from, just watching a performance on a screen. I was immersed in it. And not only that, but being able to move around the space and be able to see you from all aspects and not just two-dimensionally. I was really drawn in by that. Are there opportunities coming up for people to experience one of your performances specifically again, in any form or facet, or are you guys sort of waiting on the next iteration to do that?
Yes. Well, right now we don't have anything that's scheduled. The last thing so every time we do it, we try to ask some new questions, solve some problems to understand really what it is. It's such a new form in itself. And so we did learn a lot from, thank you for coming. We did learn a lot from that iteration. Right now, we're focusing on getting the tutorials and the workshops done, organized. And the whole idea is that we're going to create collaboratively within these workshops. And the idea is that in February, we will have some more showings. We'll see, because definitely it, what is a bit difficult in having right now and having the performances is that it does need to be hosted on the cloud. So right now, it does get, there's no like, it's not like a physical theater that it's there all the time. You can go in and out. It's like it needs to be set up. So we're working on how to make this kind of virtual performance space accessible, but it does have like technical kind of constraints there, technical and financial constraints.
Nice. Okay, well, I look forward to February. I see
Yeah.
there's a question here in the chat, or two questions. Can you speak more on human and machine empathy? What does it mean to have empathy for machines?
Yes.
Great
Wow.
question.
Yeah. This for me, I think has been interesting in just how we relate to the idea of kind of non non-sentient beings in a way, or how, or the future of yeah of AI and intelligent, so-called intelligent, avatars, and just thinking about how, what sentience is and what is consciousness. I think maybe it can start with robots and how, tasks are being like more automated. We're seeing machines in like different stores or in like Amazon warehouses and working next to humans. I think, that in itself is could be quite scary, but I think it can also take us to the idea of um, technology is what we make it. And so thinking about how these technologies speak to what it means to be human, and how we relate to each other. Yeah, maybe I'm not being very clear. um, yeah, I thought like just that interaction with the avatar kind of highlighted um, what it means to relate to another being. To more, it kind of highlighted the need for empathy more than I would think of it if I was relating to another dancer. Maybe I wouldn't think about it in that way. So yeah, it led me to think about how we relate to each other, how we relate to machines, and then what that says about our agency as humans.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Uh,
I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
I think so. I think there's a follow-up question.
Mhm.
How does one build trust where there may be distrust? I
Right.
get, yeah, it's definitely a hard thing to do, but I think possibly in watching your performance with the AI could do that. Like maybe you experiencing it, but also watching it and seeing that it can be a friend and not an enemy.
Mhm.
Of course, it's a process.
Mm. I find that the embodied practice of dancing with this so-called machine, or this as a digital dancer that doesn't have the same flesh or blood. It's like, a kind of an other, the idea of the otherness of it. Yeah, I think that was powerful in what like moving together could do. What does the dancing? What can the dancing body? What does the dancing body bring what kind of knowing, not the ways of knowing that kind of start from the body rather than from this logic, you know. I feel that's what it brought out. And I think that's really powerful in thinking about even how we relate as human. Like again, coming back, it makes me come back to how we relate to each other as humans.
Mm-hmm.
In Hungary, I was, you know, it was around that time from 2015 onward, there's this really terrible all out attack on immigrants and people who look different, like by the Hungarian government. They're really talking about you know, how immigrants are not welcome here. And so, you know, my experience in Hungary was that of being constantly othered. And then I was having this practice with this avatar that seemed other, like it's not human, right? Like it can't do that. Like, so this whole process of like, what can a machine do? What can a human do? Kind of brought out this kind of parallel discussion of otherness. And then so I felt like, wow, I'm really feeling this genuine connection with this being, even though it's not human. So like, what does that have to say about how we relate to someone that's perceived as other, or what is otherness? Yeah.
This next question is sort of related to your experience in Hungary. One person asks, having read your blog on cultural appropriation on the Hungarian Porgy and Bess opera, do you think there is a role that AI can play in the Black social injustices that are being exposed around the world? And
Wow.
for those of you who aren't familiar about what this person is referring to, Valencia, she was able to, of course, she 10 years in Hungary. Did I
Yes, I
get
spent 10
that
years
right? Yeah, she, on her blog, she um, wrote a really moving piece about how the director of Porgy and Bess in Hungary, that rendition of it, they chose to sort of do away with the original director's note about making sure that the entire class is black, of African American, or not African Americans, of black descent. And because in Hungary there's, I guess, that not that many artists who could play the role. And so yeah, I'll let you take it over, Valencia.
Yes, I mean that. Yeah, that was really interesting in how they were. Their argument was like, well, you know, if we're putting a piece on here, it needs to reflect the society. And I was just taken aback by the sense of entitlement because all they wanted to do was to be able to sing Gershwin's music. They were just in love with the music. They're like, yeah, we should be able to sing this and perform this, even though you know we're not meeting those very important stipulations. But to do with how can AI play a role in the Black social injustices? That's a really good question. I've been thinking about how to bring my passion for social and racial justice together with technology and especially with AI. And so I'm still asking that question, but maybe as a starting point when we are thinking about, you know, the idea of otherness, what is other, and how we relate, and how can we like open ourselves up still to finding common ground and and connection. Maybe that could be a starting point. I was trying in the piece I am here to bring in elements of African diaspora culture. So I did find a connection between the idea of the divide of the screen and Haitian cosmology with the divide of the abyss, like between
Mm,
the physical world and the spiritual world. There's this kind of, you know, they have these different signs of the cardinal points where, you know, above the west and east line is the living world, and then underneath is the world of the dead and the ancestors. And so I was thinking of that as a possible parallel. So I'm still working on it, but But I'd love to hear what your thoughts on that, like how AI
Yeah,
can play a role. I know
I
Rashad
think
Newsom, who is also a part of actually part of the rapid IBEAM's Rapid Response Fellowship. He is using AI as like a virtual therapist
mm,
for Black people and who are dealing with trauma of everyday microaggressions. So that's how he's using AI with for social justice.
I like the idea of approaching it on the offense instead of defense. I know a lot of things that we've talked about in practice in school is um, learning to code so that we can change the algorithm of that sometimes um, like for example when you search certain things on Google and you don't put anything about race or gender or anything in there, it'll naturally automatically bring up a certain skin tone, a certain gender. Like you type in doctor, it's predominantly white and male pictures that come up. So it's like, so we we would go on the defense and then learn to code so that someone like me can inform the algorithm, inform the machine learning in how to pick out a doctor that is that looks like anyone. But I like also going on the offense and using a not necessarily saying okay we have to defend ourselves from AI, but we can use it in a positive manner, like things you said, using it as a therapy, using it as a performance tool. Of course, that's I love that as a performer background, but I'm sure there are many more. Oh, thank you, Jinjin, for putting that
Oh,
link
thank you.
in the chat. I'm sure
Yeah.
there are many other options. I know me personally, I really would love to become a 3D motion designer and be able to use my dance background in a virtual space. Um, Still in the works, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
So
We'll see how
yeah,
to bring AI into that.
well, yeah, AI or volumetric performance. Yeah, so I was also thinking like a future like phase of the project could be bringing in like algorithmic dancers into the virtual space. Once we figure out how to make that something accessible to to human dancers and groups, and we can then think of maybe having interactions with algorithmic dancers. Maybe that could be something
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. I just
One thing,
realized that I was talking on over with the videos, trying to describe the videos, but you probably couldn't hear me like during
yeah,
the
your voice was a bit muddled. The volume of the audio of the video though was great, but in case
okay. But if there's any questions about what those videos were, if someone couldn't really see, please let me know. I'm happy to describe them.
I think you mentioned it when you were showing the video of the IAM project. Um, you guys were informing the the avatar live, and then you had a person on your left that was um, real time rendering it. Was that what that person's role?
Yeah, so there were two. So there was Alex and Gaspar. They were seated on the stage and with their laptops. So you could see like, this is right now being rendered. So Gaspar like renders the actual look of the avatar. So the particles that you saw around that can be changed. And then Alex was changing the different modes of interaction. So we had programmed for the first bit of the interaction that you saw was a kind of a call and response. So that in itself wasn't the actual algorithm, like that wasn't like the actual algorithm actually responding in that. That was kind of a replay of what I was doing. But the
Mhm.
algorithm that was underneath it was actually learning, the different positions of my body. And so there was a play of like, kind of mocking it up to when it was really like ready to show the novel movements. Then, we kind of switched the mode
I see.
of interaction. Yeah.
Nice, very nice. Well, we are technically out of time. I would like to open it up maybe for one last question. If there's anyone from the audience that wants to pose a question. But thank you again, Valencia, for joining us today. And thank you again, everyone,
Thank you for
for
having
being
me.
here. I want to give a special thank you to all of our team members, the team at Cloud Salon, Richard Tay, Jinjin, Sven Travis, the graphic designers, Richard Tay and Jocelyn, Shehara Pearl, T. Tapour, Livia Foltz, and myself, and our program coordinator, Sam Morrison, and of course, support from the Design and Technology program, John Sharp and Melanie Crean. Don't forget to join us same time next Friday. Cloud Salon invites Nicole He, that's He, for an artist talk. And does anyone want to ask one more? No?
Yeah.
Ask a question. I have a question.
Oh yes, Kathleen.
Yeah, I guess what is it like? This might kind of feed off of like an earlier question that Terry asked, but what is it like working with non-Black, non-BIPOC people so closely to work that it's personal and intimate? And like, how do you create a safe space for yourself to go through and yeah, just to do that type of work with Black and non-BIPOC people?
Well, I think that's been a process in my, yeah. There are times when, yeah, like when I was trying to do it in the first part, in the I Am Here piece, I guess I didn't, the kind of integrations of the African diaspora kind of elements didn't quite come through. It was still there as a layer, and I found a bit of like, it was kind of hard to kind of insist on that, like in Hungary with like not having anyone from the diaspora. Even my like dramaturg was like, you know, she was wonderful, and she really helped facilitate the work, like the whole like interdisciplinary part of the work. But when it came to expression of African diaspora, thought was like, yeah, so it was hard, and it still is right now. You know, it's really great because, you know, with my current collaborators, they're super, like they know a bit more. And in the US, I think there's much more dialogue about it, so people from outside the diaspora know about it. And so for them, the form it takes is like, you know, they're like encouraging me to be out there, to be the kind of the face of it. They're like, we can't be, don't even show our faces. They step back, which is nice and respectful, and they agree like it's really important that we center BIPOC artists. And so right now, I'm in the process of you know, gathering more creators and collaborators, and so that's why I'm really happy to be in community with you. And so so that's a part of that. But yeah, I think, yeah, finding space, the safe space has been coming to the US and getting to know the community here. I have a beautiful community of Black women in the Bay Area, called Rara Tuliman. They're a Haitian dance group. So, and also my friend Malika in Hotep. So I'm learning, I'm finding the people. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that you're finding community.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always hard feeling lonely and trying to do this work in a space that doesn't have as much diversity. So thank you
Yeah.
for being here, for being a pioneer in this space.
And thank you for having me, and you know, and help welcoming me to your community. So that's also part of the process, and it's been healing. Thank you.
Well, guys, if no one else has questions, I think we will wrap it up here. Thank you again so much for joining us, and please keep in touch.
Thank you. Yeah, feel free to reach out as well.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.